Freight has been enhanced in Leverage 2025 R1 to now allow multiple freight carriers on one scale ticket and subsequently create multiple freight bills as necessary. In addition, the user can optionally enter the freight amount instead of just using the system calculated freight amount. Let's take a look at how that feature looks. First thing we'll do is look at the setup. So we're going to go to Modules in Commodity Accounting. Under Setup, we're going to go to Freight and Shipping Carriers. Under Shipping Carriers, I've set up here an example of a Kansas City Southern shipping carrier. And this is per standard existing functionality, but we've added two things. First of all, we've added to the services section a default freight calculation type. Now I have this set up per load, but the default can also be set up depending on how this carrier charges to be per gross quantity, per load, per net weight, per gross weight, gross meter, or net meter. In our example, we're going to use per load. In addition to that new field, we've added this commodity charges here. So what these charges are for will be added to the freight bill in addition to this base charge. So this might be something such as a fuel service charge. And as I click on that, you can see here that I've added a service charge, and it is by default, it'll be a 5% service charge, and it'll apply to the tickets defaulted here by these parameters. I've left it wide open, so it pretty much will default to anything I use or any freight bill created Kansas City Southern. So let's take a look at how that is calculated using the scale ticket. So I'm going to navigate now to the outbound scale ticket under Modules, Commodity Accounting. Under Outbound Delivery, I'm going to create an outbound scale ticket. I'm going to create a new ticket, and you can see here, outbound, and I am going to use my soybean meal. And my customers will be Westbrook Farms. Create. And since this is going to be a rail ticket, I'm just going to go ahead and say my gross quantity is 3,900 bushels. Well, not 39,000, but 3,900. You'll see here we've made changes to the transportation details tab or section, I guess, of the screen. Under the transportation details now you'll see some new fields, the booking number, the container number, a release number, but you also know that some are missing in this section, and that's because they have moved now to the freight details. Under the freight details, we'll outline here the freight carriers that hauled this load. So I'm going to do an add line. Oops, I added line twice, so I'm going to do an add line. And I am going to select the company. You notice there's this new column, responsible. And this is either the company pays the freight or the customer pays the freight. If the customer pays the freight, there's nothing that really happens inside the system. It's just recorded for information. In our example, the company is going to pay, so it will actually create a freight bill. So company pays, and it is going to be a rail. And the shipping carrier, we're going to use Burlington Northern Santa Fe as our main carrier. We'll just use their corn rate. And let's say that that rate will be $500. We also, and this is a new feature, we can add more than one freight carrier. So we can add another rail carrier, maybe a short line. So we're going to use the company. It's going to be a rail. And we'll choose that Kansas City Southern. And we will use the corn service for that. And let's say that is going to be a $200 charge. Now you notice as we tab off that line, we also, not only did we get the $200 charge, but we also got the $10 fuel charge. And we can see that by clicking on the Maintain Charges button. And you can see that by default, the fuel surcharge came in here at 5% automatically because of that setup we did. So we hit save on this scale ticket. And now if we wanted to see that it actually created the freight bills, We've added a new freight invoicing button under View. So let's view the freight bills that were created. I'm hitting the search button, and you notice that there are two freight bills are created, one for Burlington Northern and one for Kansas City Southern for the appropriate amounts. So this functionality not only works on the outbound scale ticket, but also works on inbound tickets and transfer tickets. As the final step, let's take a look at paying the freight bill, and you can see just how that's done. So under commodity accounting, we're going to go to freight and freight invoicing. And we are going to select our shipping carrier of Kansas City Southern. And we'll do a search. And you can see some of the tickets that we've created, including this last ticket we created right here. So at this point, we simply select the freight, put in the actual amounts if they're different than what we were billed for, hit freight invoice, and then do either vendor invoice, which then the payable can be cut, or the check can be cut later, or we can do an invoice and pay. So the ability to add multiple freight carriers and to manually calculate or have the system automatically calculate the freight bill has been added to Leverage 2025 R1.